thank you very much. Let's talk about this relief package. Your constituents, people across America, are suffering. There are talks, but so little progress. Mitch McConnell isn't even at the table, and the Republicans are clearly divided in the Senate. What's going on there?
Well, they haven't been able to get their own act together. You have a president who's absent from any effort to cajole his own party members to come to an agreement. You have, according to Senator McConnell, the Republican leader, 30 members of his caucus, over half of his caucus, who say they will vote for nothing. And then, Senator McConnell's not engaged in this. So at the end of the day, you have a negotiation going on between the Speaker, Senator Schumer, the Democratic leader, Mark Meadows, the Chief of Staff, and Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary. But there are critical ingredients here that should be at the table as well. But what's amazing to me is that there is no sense of urgency by the Republicans, and I think we get a sense of their view of this whole situation when they can provide in their proposal zero, for example, for food assistance, but go ahead and spend $3 billion on 100% credit for a 3-martini lunch.
Well, Senator, the House passed something. Now, clearly the Senate wasn't going to go for that House bill. It was $3 trillion. It had state and local aid. It had a lot of other issues, including help for the Postal Service to try to get a fair election with mail-in ballots. The Senate, as you say, has no sense of urgency. Why have they waited all these months, and now 2 weeks are expiring without any real action? Isn't there some way, even among those senators who are in swing states and are up for re-election?
Well, it's unexplainable, and let me just refine the statement. Democrats in the Senate have a sense of urgency. That's why 2.5 months ago, Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer sent a letter to the president and to Senator McConnell saying, we're going to need more help for the American people. A national emergency requires a national response. But for 2.5 months, we got crickets. We didn't hear anything. No response to that sense of urgency then. And now we have the lack of engagement, of a robust engagement that is necessary to ultimately meet the challenge. I mean, look, it's exemplified by their leader, President Trump. When he says it is what it is, that is the most cruel abdication of presidential leadership I've ever seen.
What about the whole issue of Mark Meadows versus Mnuchin? I mean, there are divisions among the Republican senators, but the president and Mark Meadows apparently pushing for an executive order to threaten to do this by executive order, and Mnuchin not buying that. So that's, one fault line. Can he do it by executive order and appropriate money?
No. I mean, this is not Louis XIV. This is not, I am the state, and therefore I can do anything I want. It's still the United States of America. It's still a constitutional democracy, and there are clearly delineated powers. The president continues to say, I'll do it if they don't do it. No. Show presidential leadership, get everybody in the room, get all the elements necessary, cajole your own members into voting. They're frightened of you when you threaten them in a primary. Go ahead and use that power to get a solution for the American people. Let's get the checks out to the American people. Let's establish unemployment compensation that really can sustain a family. Let's put food on the table for food insecurity, and let's help the states and municipalities that are facing huge shortfalls in red states as well as blue states at the end of the day, and who would have to lay off those people who we need the most in the midst of a pandemic. It would be the height of irony that public health employees, nurses, first responders, emergency management, all the people we've needed during the pandemic would be ultimately on the unemployment line instead of on the front lines of defense against the pandemic. And this is the lack of a national response and a national plan, and it is emblematic in how they're dealing with the crisis at this point as we seek to have a negotiation that can help the American people get relief.
I want to ask you about New Jersey because COVID cases are rising. You've had a terrible outbreak with the Rutgers football team. What are you seeing in New Jersey now? And we've seen pictures of young people partying not only there, but we see these, young people partying as though there's no COVID out there.
We went through an incredibly difficult time, and I give a lot of credit to Governor Murphy, who made very tough decisions that were both personally for New Jerseyans and financially consequential, but it dramatically brought the curve down. It started to make sure that the virus could not spread. It starved off the virus, and we were well under 1%. Now, because we have young people, and I was that age once, you think you're invincible, that you're immune, but you're not. And not only that you're not immune, but what you do to your parents, to your loved ones, to your friends is just such an enormous risk to them. And so getting that message across is incredibly important. But this, again, if we had a national statement, we had a president who embraced from the very beginning the nature of the pandemic instead of saying it is what it is, who understood that by standing up, wearing a mask, saying we're all in this together, we're going to get through it, but here's what we're going to have to do, who calls upon the sacrifice of the American people in order to end the pandemic and have a better, brighter day tomorrow, we wouldn't be where we are today. That's unfortunately the reality that we're in.
Senator Bob Menendez from New Jersey, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks very much for being with us today.